Once I sniffed that for the first time, I couldn't stop.
You couldn't stop?
Didn't want to stop. The only thing that I think about is my children and how they didn't deserve to be born with a mother with this addiction. My main goal is to get clean and stay clean.
The United States, the wealthiest nation on earth, yet some claim it can't provide shelter for its own citizens. Is that true? In 2025, homelessness in America has surged to a shocking new height. From the bustling streets of Los Angeles to the frigid back streets of New York City, this crisis has escalated into a national emergency. Tent encampments now sprawl across blocks, sidewalks shelter thousands, and public parks have turned into makeshift settlements. Per the latest federal data, over 720,000 individuals currently lack stable housing, a staggering figure that has grown steadily despite years of political pledges and billions invested. This isn't merely a housing problem, it's a humanitarian, economic, and political breakdown unfolding before our eyes. For decades, state and federal governments have rolled out programs, enacted laws, and expanded services to tackle homelessness. Yet now more Americans than ever are living on the streets. Why are these initiatives failing? Who is genuinely being supported and who is being overlooked? In this documentary, we closely examine the areas where the crisis strikes hardest, the focal points of America's homelessness emergency, to uncover what's gone wrong and what can still be done. But first, let's dive deeper into the reality that's gradually eroding America. How did the wealthiest nation on earth reach such a critical juncture with homelessness? In America, spiraling out of control. In 2024, homelessness in America hit unprecedented historic highs. Per the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's 2024 Annual Homeless Assessment report, roughly 770,000 people were homeless on any given night, marking an 18% rise from the prior year. Nearly 150,000 were children, and chronic homelessness, defined as prolonged or recurring episodes, now impacts over 152,000 people, with about 65% of them unsheltered. Multiple systemic factors drive this sharp increase. First, housing affordability has hit a breaking point. As of 2024, California alone accounted for over 160,000 homeless individuals, comprising nearly 28% of the national total. Surging rents and stagnant wages, particularly after the pandemic, have pushed many into vulnerability. Skyrocketing housing costs and an inadequate social safety net have propelled homelessness to its highest levels since tracking began. Additionally, migration and geopolitical tensions are influencing the situation. The United States' growing involvement in the Middle East, particularly U.S. airstrikes targeting Iran's nuclear program, has sparked domestic debates over war powers and public spending. Meanwhile, tensions with Canada emerged in March 2025. The U.S. introduced broad tariffs on Canadian goods, prompting retaliatory actions and a Canadian boycott of U.S. travel and products. Political focus on foreign policy and trade disputes may have diverted resources and attention needed to effectively address domestic challenges, including homelessness in America. One, Skid Row, Los Angeles. Skid Row is arguably the most notorious homeless enclave in America. Situated in downtown Los Angeles, it spans multiple blocks and houses an estimated 4,000 to 6,000 unhoused people. Many reside in tents or cardboard setups surrounded by trash rodents and relentless noise. Mental health issues, substance abuse, and untreated medical problems are rampant. Emergency services are ever present, yet they rarely achieve lasting impact. Over time, city leaders have initiated numerous cleanup efforts, outreach initiatives, and housing strategies, but most have fallen short of sustained progress. Court decisions have limited the city's ability to clear encampments unless sufficient shelter space exists, which it often doesn't. Skid Row stands as a stark emblem of how complex, fractured, and challenging the issue of homelessness in America has grown. It reveals what happens when years of policy, missteps, and neglect accumulate visibly on urban streets. Two, Venice Beach, Los Angeles. Venice Beach once epitomized California's carefree coastal vibe, but now it paints a starkly different picture. The boardwalk, formerly alive with skateboarders and buskers, now also hosts lines of tents, makeshift shelters, and scattered possessions. People sleep just steps from upscale cafes and multi-million-dollar residences. Some are longtime locals who lost jobs or homes. Others grapple with addiction or mental health issues. Tensions between housed and unhoused residents have grown, with some calling for police intervention and others advocating for humane solutions. In recent years, city officials have provided temporary shelter options, but many decline them due to safety fears or restrictive policies. Venice Beach has become a vivid example of how a housing crisis paired with growing inequality can transform even the most iconic communities. It also mirrors a wider reality. Homelessness in America doesn't stay hidden, it stands in plain view. To Manhattan, New York. In Manhattan, the divide between affluence and despair is stark and inescapable. Surrounded by billion-dollar towers and high-end shops, thousands of people reside on subway seats, in Central Park nooks, and beside corporate offices. New York's shelter network, the nation's largest, is perpetually overburdened. Administrative obstacles, mental health challenges, and soaring living expenses drive more individuals to slip through the gaps. The COVID-era eviction protections have ended, yet rent costs continue to climb. For many New Yorkers, homelessness has become so routine that it's overlooked, but the crisis persists unchanged. Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, once a haven for the working class, now embodies urban change and displacement. As gentrification transforms areas like Williamsburg and Bushwick, low-income residents are priced out, forced into precarious housing, or onto the streets. The homeless population here is less visible than in Manhattan, often sleeping in vehicles or relying on temporary couches until options vanish. Shelters are overcrowded and supportive housing waitlists are extensive. Meanwhile, community friction rises as locals debate whether the issue stems from policy shortcomings or a deeper ethical failure. In Brooklyn, the American dream is clearly broken. Five, Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix has one of the nation's most rapidly expanding homeless populations. With scorching summer temperatures, often exceeding 110 degrees, surviving outdoors, here is not only tough, it's hazardous and sometimes fatal. The city's Zone, a sprawling encampment near downtown, became a focal point in 2024 after courts mandated its clearance. However, dismantling tents didn't solve the issue. Many individuals simply relocated to nearby streets or desert patches facing harsh weather with minimal shelter. Scarce shelter beds, limited mental health resources, and escalating rents have worsened the crisis. Despite government strategies and legal disputes, the situation remains volatile. Phoenix now serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when extreme climate and housing crises converge in America's sunniest cities. Six, Kensington, Philadelphia. Kensington is the epicenter of America's fentanyl crisis. Situated in North Philadelphia, it's notorious not only for homelessness, but for open-air drug use that stuns even seasoned residents and first responders. Individuals sleep on pavements, slump against the deserted buildings, or lie unconscious from overdoses in full sight. The community battles to survive every single day. Nonprofits and locals strive to assist, but the magnitude of addiction is overpowering and unyielding. Police patrols have intensified, but arrests alone have made little difference. Kensington illustrates how drug addiction and homelessness amplify each other. It's not merely a housing problem here, it's a public health crisis exposing how deeply flawed the system truly is. Seven, Tenderloin, San Francisco. The Tenderloin lies at San Francisco's core steps, away from City Hall and upscale hotels. Yet on these streets, homelessness, addiction, and poverty define everyday existence. Sidewalks are crowded with tents, individuals using drugs openly, and volunteers distributing food or clean needles. City leaders have attempted both tough enforcement and harm reduction initiatives, but lasting change remains elusive. Residents are exasperated, and visitors often depart stunned by what they see. The Tenderloin offers a stark, unvarnished glimpse of what the homeless in America face in one of the world's richest cities where high tech and human suffering collide on the same street. Up to Capitol Hill, Seattle. Capitol Hill is renowned for its art activism and liberal ethos. Yet in recent years, it has also emerged as a focal point for Seattle's homelessness crisis. Following the CHOP zone in 2020, encampments have never fully vanished. Parks and sidewalks remain home to numerous tents with visible mental health crises frequent. Many locals feel torn between empathy and unease, uncertain about what to trust or endorse. Shelters are overcrowded and city rents stay unaffordable for many working residents. While communities organizations advocate for housing-first approaches, progress remains sluggish. Capitol Hill mirrors Seattle's challenge to align noble intentions with tangible outcomes as the price of inaction rises daily. No, it's San Jose, California. San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley, hosts tech titans and billion-dollar corporations. Yet just beyond these sleek skyscrapers, thousands reside in tense vehicles or beneath overpasses. The disparity is stark and impossible to overlook. In 2025, the city drew national scrutiny after clearing a large encampment near Maneza Airport, displacing hundreds without a lasting solution. Soaring rents. Unemployment and scarce affordable housing have driven working-class families to the brink. Even those with full-time jobs live in RVs and temporary shelters. San Jose reveals that in today's economy, prosperity and struggle can coexist, yet remain vastly separated. Oakland, California. Oakland has long been a hub of resilience, culture, and community, but it's now grappling with a surging homeless crisis. Tents and dilapidated vehicles crowd major streets, while vacant lots and sidewalks turn into packed encampments brimming with despair. The city has attempted to establish safe parking areas and provide hotel vouchers, but need consistently exceeds availability and resources are spread thin. Many unhoused individuals here are Black and Latino, highlighting deeper problems of racial inequity and systemic oversight. At night, fires occasionally erupt in encampments and violence is not rare. Oakland's battle is stark and pressing a signal that homelessness in America is not just growing, it's intensifying street by street. To grasp the core of homelessness in America, we must look beyond the surface. Beyond encampments and streets, a silent battle unfolds involving addiction, trauma, and mental health challenges. These aren't mere side issues. They lie at the heart of the crisis. For years, the U.S. has treated substance abuse and mental health as distinct problems. Even today, systems remain disjointed. One agency addresses addiction, another handles psychiatric care, and a third focuses on housing. Yet for those on the streets, these challenges often intertwine. Someone who lost their job, turned to alcohol, developed depression, and became homeless doesn't need 3 separate services. They need one cohesive support system. Why is that so difficult to create? Much of the fault lies in outdated policy approaches. Instead of tackling root causes, we target symptoms. Public funds still heavily prioritize law enforcement and emergency measures over prevention or recovery. Shelters may provide food and beds, but they rarely employ full-time mental health professionals. Rehabilitation facilities are scarce, often temporary, and hard to access without insurance or ID, 2 things many homeless individuals don't have. Even more concerning is how society discusses addiction. We stigmatize it, criminalize it, and label it a choice. But science tells a different story. Addiction is a disease influenced by genetics, environment, and life experiences. It's manageable, but requires time, consistency, and compassion. The same applies to mental illness. Yet too many still view the homeless as lazy, dangerous, or beyond redemption. This mindset isn't just misguided, it's part of the problem. Isn't it time we stop treating mental illness as a personal failing and start addressing it as the medical condition it is? Tackling homelessness in America will never work unless we confront these truths directly. That means investing in long-term care, dismantling stigma, and crafting policies that treat people as humans, not issues to be swept aside. This isn't just about housing, it's about healing empathy and finally creating systems that serve those who need support the most. For decades, the United States has relied on social welfare as a safety net designed to catch people before they fall too far. Programs like Supplemental Security Income, SSI, Section 8 vouchers, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits were created to support the elderly, disabled, and poorest during tough times. In many instances, these programs have succeeded. Millions of Americans depend on them daily to afford food, medicine, or keep a home they might otherwise lose. In theory, these initiatives should serve as a foundation, providing enough aid to help people rebuild their lives. But for those on the streets, the reality is starkly different. Although welfare programs exist in name, navigating them is a labyrinth of forms, rules, wait lists, and bureaucratic hurdles. For instance, someone living in a tent without ID, a phone, or an address may struggle for weeks just to apply if they can even figure out where to begin. Without internet or transportation, following up on applications becomes nearly impossible. Some cities offer caseworkers to assist, but demand far exceeds availability, and delays are harsh. Waiting for housing aid can take months, even years. Moreover, social welfare in America increasingly comes with conditions that many unhoused individuals simply cannot fulfill. Clean drug tests, proof of job searches, or regular appointment attendance may seem reasonable on paper, but how can someone comply while living in a chaotic encampment lacking access to showers, electricity, or mental health support? Instead of aid, the system often ends up penalizing those who need it most. In recent years, some states have reduced benefits or imposed new restrictions citing fraud or financial constraints. But the deeper reality is this: as homelessness in America grows, the welfare system hasn't kept pace. Instead, it's become more restrictive, more selective, and harder to access. Many have fallen through the gaps not because they didn't try, but because the system was already half closed when they approached it. For some, giving up became the only choice left. Is it surprising then that so many unhoused people no longer even try to seek aid? The process itself feels designed to exhaust them. There are still success stories, of course, people who received help and transformed their lives, but these are now the exceptions, not the norm. The United States has long boasted that anyone can rise again with a little support. But when that support is buried under bureaucracy, skepticism, and outdated policies, what hope remains for those already on the brink? The truth about social welfare today is this: it still holds value, but it's not enough, not accessible to everyone, and not designed for the complexity of the crisis we face. Without major reform, it risks becoming a relic, well-intentioned but powerless against the weight of modern poverty. And that makes addressing homelessness in America even more challenging than it already is. In recent years, federal, state, and local governments have introduced a broad array of initiatives to tackle homelessness, each promising progress but often lacking lasting impact. The most commonly adopted approach is Housing First, which emphasizes providing permanent housing before mandating treatment or employment. Cities like Salt Lake City and Houston have seen success with this model, particularly for veterans. Yet when applied, nationwide outcomes have been uneven. Why does the same approach succeed in one city but falter in another? A key problem is scale. Housing. First only succeeds when sufficient housing exists, and many cities simply lack enough units. Building affordable housing is costly, time-consuming, and frequently hindered by zoning regulations or community resistance. Funding poses another challenge. Pandemic-era relief provided temporary resources, but most of those funds have run out. Without sustained investment, shelters shut down, outreach staff are cut, and newly housed individuals face the risk of returning to homelessness. Conclusion. The homelessness crisis in America goes beyond poverty. It reveals the deeper cracks in our politics, priorities, and empathy. No single solution will resolve it. But unless we address the problem's full scope with candor and urgency, the suffering will persist, evident on every corner and quietly expanding within every flawed system.